Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is SewRena, and in today's video we're going to be doing a really fun 1960s space themed outfit. I've never done any kind of mid-century sci-fi or sci-fi anything on this channel, so I wanted to give it a try and I thought it would be really fun. But my inspiration for this is kind of like Jetsons meets mid-century modern alien that's trying to adapt to the world around her. So I'm trying to go with something that's really cool in color, shape, and then after this video I'm gonna learn how to do my makeup so that way I can have like blue skin and everything else. But today we're going to be using a vintage pattern, of course, and we're going to be manipulating it to get it exactly where I want it to be to make this project possible. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to see more videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at @SewRena_ to see what I'm up to in real time. If you'd like to support this channel further, you can leave me a virtual tip on Ko-fi, and you can also join my Patreon and become a bobbin today, where I have exclusive videos and tutorials. In fact, the hat portion of this video will be uploaded exclusively for my bobbins to see a tutorial on how I make the hat that matches this dress. So without further ado, let's get into the video. For today's pattern, we are using Simplicity 8463. It is a size 11-12, bust 32, and it's a junior teen pattern. It comes with several view options, 5 to be exact. It has pants and then a dress that can also be worn as a tunic with 3 different length sleeves. You have a short sleeve, quarter length sleeve, and a long sleeve option. And then you have optional pocket flaps, but no pocket. Here are all of the pieces and pieces given and the backs of all of the garments. And it was copywritten in 1969. For today's fabric, we're going to be using neoprene. I've never used this before. We have this sunflower yellow that kind of is in the orangey family. And then we have this really pretty pink. I've already started, so I just cut out some swatches to share with you guys. And I really like this fabric. I think it will hold this shape really well. The first time I made it in a twill and it held up really nicely, but I wanted to go for something a little bit more dramatic. So I went with this neoprene, hopefully to hold its shape and give that very alien, retro fantasy vibe. So I did some color blocking to incorporate both the fabrics in the dress because there are no panels or princess seams in this dress. So what I had to do was I cut like a triangle shape out for the center, and then I cut out the side pieces. Then I sew it all back up so it's back into a rectangle shape, and then I fold my new rectangle in half and cut everything out on the fold like I would have originally. I was working on the floor, so I didn't capture everything, but also I wasn't sure it was going to work on the first try, so I didn't bother film. Since I have those 2 new seams on the front, I decided to use a decorative stitch, and I pulled out one of my cams. I thought it would be a cute design detail since I hardly ever use my cams, and this was just a fun project. I started out with a standard presser foot, but I switched later on, and I'll go into more details later. Now that the pieces are put together and the decorative stitch is on, I fold that rectangle in half like I was talking about earlier, and I cut out the actual pattern front on that rectangle. The original pattern that I wanted to use for this dress, I opened it up. It was actually a pattern that belonged to my husband's grandmother, and when I opened it up, the pattern pieces were missing and just the envelope and the instructions were present. It had a insert for the center where I could have put a contrasting fabric, and I still wanted that detail, so I just kind of made one up on my own, and I think it worked out. So now I'm marking the bust darts, and this is the only darts that are going to be in the front of the dress to give it a little bit of shaping, but it's still a very loose fit dress, and it's so cute. I love the way that it sews together. I love how quick it is, especially if you don't have any kind of special details that you're doing to it. In this situation, I did the color blocking, and the very first time that I made it, I turned it into a nurse's uniform, so I altered the collar and adjusted the front a little bit, but I'm pretty sure if you didn't do any kind of special alterations, it would be even faster. And both times I was able to create this dress in a day. So now I'm cutting out the remaining pattern pieces, the back dress, which comes in 2 pieces, the zipper is straight down the center back, and then the collar will be cut out next. At this point, I wasn't sure what length sleeve I wanted to go with because I want to wear makeup on my body and I wasn't sure if I wanted to cover my arms all the way. So I figured maybe I should wait a while before I make that decision. So now I'm stay stitching everything. This is a knit fabric, so I didn't want it to stretch out any further, causing any kind of distortion to the neck because the collar is very important to me. I didn't want to put too much makeup on my neck, so I made sure that I went with a high colored pattern to cover up my neck when I put on my face makeup or body makeup. So while I stay stitch the remainder of the curved edges, I want to talk about the presser foot. So I'm still using a metal presser foot. It's the regular zigzag foot or the multi-purpose foot. And I switched it out to the Q foot, which is an acrylic foot that looks very similar. And this allows you to sew knits without it skipping a stitch, which can be quite common if you don't have the right foot in setting. So as you can see here, now I'm sewing down the center back. I am using that Q foot and it's sewing very nicely. And then I switched to my zipper foot so that way I can attach my zipper down the back, and I'm using an adjustable zipper foot for this, not the original. This is actually a universal zipper foot that I got from my local machine store. For a long time, I thought that vintage sewing machines could not sew knits, and that couldn't be the farthest from the truth. It's just that if you buy a machine that's incomplete or doesn't come with the accessories, then sometimes it's missing a foot or special attachments. Also, your machine could just be set to the wrong settings for working with knits. My machine that I'm sewing with now also has a stretch stitch, and I didn't know that until I downloaded my manual for free. So you just have to get a hold of your manual or the proper foot to help you out. The only other adjustments that I made to my machine to sew this fabric was to set my machine to the longest stitch because the fabric is quite thick. And of course, you're going to want a knit needle, ballpoint needle, microtex needle, whatever you use to sew knits on your machine or what's compatible for knit sewing on your machine. I'm using a Singer ballpoint needle. That's not my preferred brand, but I don't sew knits often, so that's what I've had for the longest time. Okay, so now we're interfacing just the center portion of the collar. I think it could do without, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't want to have to take it apart later and fix it otherwise. So we're just going to avoid the seam allowances so that way the collar can still stretch because the collar was cut on the bias. But I've been learning more than enough with this neoprene, and the collar is kind of a big deal for this whole project, so that's the last thing that I want to mess up or have any kind of kinks on. So I am someone who likes to press her fold and hems into her pieces before they're sewn onto the garment. So I am taking the time to press the fold, the center fold down on the collar now, and then I'm also going to turn in the seam allowance and press that as well to make life easier when it's attached to the dress. Pressing tools are super helpful, and I find that my clapper really helps this process along because when I tried to press it without added pressure, it wasn't necessarily holding the fold or the seam. So adding that clapper on top really keeps the pieces down, and this will especially be important when you're working on the seams, like the side seams and things like that. You want to make sure that you press the fabric open so that way your seams don't look super bulky. Now I am attaching the collar at the neck, and I want to take great care not to stretch this out too much and take my time to really ease the collar in because you don't want to sew creases or small tiny pleats into the neckline. I don't want to have to unpick the neoprene and the holes kind of stay in the fabric and it's not so forgiving. So even with the pinning, I try to pin within the seam allowance so I don't see the scarring later. And I don't necessarily mean scarring. What I do mean is that it tends to snag the fabric and have like runs, kind of like you would in pantyhose. So I want to avoid as much pinning and or seam ripping as possible on this material because I don't want to see little snags in the fabric after the fact. This was a really fun project for me. I don't usually get to do super creative pieces on a regular basis, so I reserve them for around Christmas time only. Thanks to you guys' ongoing support and my bobbins over on Patreon and supporters on Ko-fi, I was able to flex my creativity a little. And even though I didn't make this with the intent for it to work into my regular wardrobe, I've fallen in love with it and I can't imagine not wearing it on a regular basis. It's so pretty. Because of the material, it will definitely be like a late winter, early spring piece when it's still chilly outside, because I did go with the long sleeves. I did some more color blocking so that way it could have some more orange in the piece apart from the center of the dress. Also, I need to say that the orange is actually called a sunflower yellow, but it looks kind of orange to me, so we're gonna go with that. And so now we have to do the same little flat fell detail for the sleeve so that way the seam isn't bulky, and I'm using the same decorative stitch and it just looks terrific. I did one sleeve off camera, so now it's time to show you how I do the other sleeve. So of course you're going to need to ease the sleeve into the armhole, and I leave the side seams open as I usually do. I did the gathering stitches by hand because I'm already using the longest stitch on my machine to sew the dress together. And this gives you more control anyway. So after doing that, I attached the sleeve to the dress, and now it's time to close up the sleeve and the side seams all in one go. This is my preferred method to putting a sleeve in, and it looks really nice. And then to finish the raw edges, I just pink it for the look of it being finished because this fabric does not fray, so it's not necessary if you don't want to, but if you want it to give that look of being completed or finished or something's done with it, then just go over it with your pinking shears. Once all the pieces are put together, then I go in and hem everything by hand, and the dress is complete until I make the matching hat. And if you're interested in seeing how I make that hat in detail, join my bobbins over on Patreon because that's this month's exclusive video. This is my first fantasy mid-century piece and I'm really excited with it. I can't wait to put it on and show you everything with the hat. I used a Vogue 1960s hat pattern to make my hat, and I used the same fabric that I used for the dress to make it. If you want to see a full-length tutorial of me making this piece, go ahead and join my Patreon. The link will be in the description below. Also on Patreon, you will find an unfinished tour of my kitchen, as well as other exclusive videos and hat tutorials. So here is the final look. I hope you enjoyed this video. I did not have any shoes for this. I would have preferred to have boots, and I completely forgot about ordering any before finishing this video, so I'm definitely going to get on that next. And I can't wait to try on my sci-fi makeup so I can get the full look. Once I try on the makeup and the complete look, I'll post on my YouTube shorts, my community feed, as well as Instagram, where I also post short form videos and photos. You guys' support means the world to me and helps make these fun projects come to life. So if you'd like to support this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd like to support further, you can leave me a virtual tip on Ko-fi. The link will be description below. You can also join my Patreon. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.